The Neopets Battledome trading card game brings all the fun and excitement of the Battledome to your kitchen table or local game store. You can learn to play in just a few minutes, then put your strategy to the test as you train, equip, and coach your Neopet to success. I've already talked about the different types of cards you'll find in the Neopets Battledome TCG, so I'm not going to go into detail about them here. If you haven't watched that video and don't know about the 11 types of cards, go back and watch it. Otherwise, you might be lost when we cover the different decks and which cards go where. To play the Neopets Battledome TCG, you'll need at least three things: a deck, a Neopet deck, and a handful of six-sided dice. You can get all of these, plus the optional rainbow pool, in one of the starter boxes, along with a paper playmat with the basic rules and play area layout. You can find the starter boxes at your local game store or from the Upper Deck store. First thing we're going to talk about is the decks. Battledome uses three different decks: the deck, which we'll call the main deck to avoid confusion, the Neopet deck, and the rainbow pool. The main deck contains exactly 50 cards, made up of a combination of code stones, equipment, food, fairies, legends, potions, paintbrushes, and map pieces. You can include as many code stones as you want, but every other card has a limit on how many you can have in the deck. For equipment, food, legends, potions, and paintbrushes, you can only include 2 copies of each card, and only 1 copy of fairies or map pieces. 2 cards with the same name are considered to be the same card, even if they're from different sets and of different art. So, sorry, you can't have 4 copies of the Breadmaster just because they look different. The main deck needs to be randomized, so make sure you shuffle it before playing and any time that a card instructs you to shuffle. The other 2 decks do not need to be randomized. The second deck is the Neopet deck, and it can contain a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 5 Neopets. Each Neopet has to have a unique name, so unfortunately you can't make a Neopet deck that exclusively contains Shoryus or Aries, even if they have different colors and art. The final deck is the Rainbow Pool. The Rainbow Pool can contain up to 10 unique Rainbow Neopets, plus any other cards with text that says they start in the Rainbow Pool, like locations. You don't need to use a Rainbow Pool, and the rules don't actually require the Rainbow Neopets in the Rainbow Pool to match the Neopets or paintbrushes in the other decks. So if you really love your baby Loop on your Neopets account, you can throw one into the Rainbow Pool to keep you company or to be your lucky charm. Now that we've covered the decks, let's take a look at the playing area. If you pick up one of the starter decks, you'll get a paper playmat that looks like this, showing all of the game zones, and we'll be using it for reference. On the bottom right corner is a spot for the main deck, which you'll shuffle before placing it. Then on the left side there's a space for your Rainbow Pool, and your Neopet deck goes above that. While the Rainbow Pool and Neopet deck don't need to be shuffled, they do need to be face down. Back on the right side, you've got a discard area above the deck, and the void above that. Most cards will go in the discard after you play them, but a few, like fairies, go to the void instead. Both areas act the same, but there are several cards that interact with your discard pile, so don't get the two mixed up. The Neopet zone in the top center is where you'll play your Neopet, and your code stones will be attached underneath it, offset enough that you can see how many there are and what stat bonuses they each give. Around the Neopet and code stones you have an area for 3 equipments and 1 fairy. The top left area is the round results, where you'll keep track of the results of each round by placing your Neopet there when the round ends. The area on the bottom, between the main deck and the Rainbow Pool, is the play area. The starter box playmat uses this to display the turn breakdown as a reminder, and you can also use this area to store map pieces that you collect or to roll your dice. The last zone isn't on the playmat. It's the inventory, which is Battledome's word for your hand of cards. The maximum size for your inventory is 50 cards, so you can draw your entire deck without having to worry about discarding. When you're ready to play, the first thing to decide is which player will go first. You can use any method to randomly pick the first player, but since each player should have a set of dice handy, the easiest way is probably to roll a die and have the highest roll go first. Shuffle your main deck and set it in the deck area. It's common courtesy to offer to allow your opponent to cut your deck. Then place your Rainbow Pool and Neopets deck in the designated areas. Draw 5 cards from your main deck. If you don't like your inventory, which is the game's turn for cards in your hand, you can shuffle your whole inventory back into the deck and draw again. This is called a mulligan, and you can only do it once per game. If your new inventory is worse than your first one, you'll just have to live with it. After both players have seen their starting inventory, you and your opponent both choose one Neopet from the Neopet deck and place it face down in the Neopet zone. Seeing your inventory before choosing your Neopet means you can make decisions based on which cards you drew. For example, if you have a ghost paintbrush in your inventory and a ghost loop in your rainbow pool, you know that you can choose your blue loop as your first Neopet and start with a big advantage. Finally, once both players' Neopets are set, you both flip your Neopet at the same time, and the first player starts their turn. In our sample game, you're going first. Let's walk through your turn phase by phase. First is the draw phase. During the draw phase, you draw one card, and then the phase ends and the training phase begins. The training phase is the second phase in the turn. This is the phase when you can attach a code stone to your Neopet. Each code stone adds 1 level to your Neopet, to a maximum of 5, and adds 1 to your Neopet's attack, defense, or agility. After attaching a code stone, or deciding not to, you move on to the preparation phase. In the preparation phase, you can play 1 card from your inventory. The card you play has to have a level requirement equal to or lower than your Neopet's level. You can't attach another code stone, because that doesn't count as playing a card, but you can collect as many map pieces as you want. As a rule, you can play 1 equipment, potion, legend, or fairy during your preparation phase. You can also play any number of foods, but you can play those at any time, even on your opponent's turn. After the preparation or prep phase, it's time for the battle phase. Each turn after the first, your Neopet must battle against your opponents. Since it's the first turn, you can't attack, so let's skip ahead and look at your opponent's battle phase. The battle phase is the last phase of the turn, and battling ends your turn. Battling is broken down into 4 steps. Step 1, attack. Whichever player is attacking adds together their Neopet's attack and all boosts from code stones, equipment, and other effects. Then they roll that many dice, to a maximum of 10. Every 4 or 5 that they roll is a success, and 6 is a critical success. Each critical success counts as an automatic hit. Step 2, defend. The other Neopet, the defending Neopet, does the same thing, except with their defense stat. Add the defense and all boosts together, then roll that many dice, to a maximum of 10. 4, 5, and 6 are all successes, and there are no critical successes while defending. Each success counts as a block. Step 3, compare agility. Compare both Neopets' agility after adding all bonuses. Whichever player has the pet with the higher agility can re-roll dice equal to the difference, potentially turning failures into successes. Step 4, calculate damage. Add up all of the attacking Neopet successes, then subtract the defending Neopet successes. If the number of hits is higher than the number of blocks, the defending Neopet takes damage equal to the difference. Then the defending Neopet takes an additional damage for each critical success. In this example, my opponent is attacking with a green Scorchio with a Brie Codestone attached. It has 3 base attack, and no Codestones, potions, or equipment adding to that, so my opponent gets 3 attack dice. He rolls those 3 dice, getting 1 success, 4 or 5, and 2 sixes, which are critical successes. I'm defending with the yellow Airy, which has 2 defense and an Orb Codestone, which gives 1 defense, for a total of 3. I roll 3 defense dice, getting a 5 and a pair of 2s. Comparing results, my success can block my opponent's success. But his Brie Codestone gives his Scorchio 1 more agility than my Airy, so he gets to reroll 1 die. He rerolls the 5, hoping for a critical success that I can't block, but doesn't get it. After re-rolling, the green Scorpio has 2 critical successes and 1 failure, while the yellow Aerie has 1 success. A defending Neopet can't block a critical success, so we add those up, and the yellow Aerie takes 2 damage. You can use dice to keep track of damage on your Neopet. A 16 or 20 side die works great, and I recommend the spin down dice used as life counters in other trading card games. Unlike some other trading card games, there's no resource requirement to play most cards, but you do need to meet the requirements: level, timing, and condition. Most cards, aside from fairies, paintbrushes, and map pieces, have a level requirement written in the top left corner. In order to play those cards, your Neopet needs to be that level or higher. In other words, it needs at least that many code stones attached. Timing is when you can play a card. Most cards can only be played during your prep phase, but food can be played at any time. Some cards have specific timing text. For example, Diamond Hot Dog has specific timing of your opponent's battle phase after damage is calculated, so that's the only time it can be played. Finally, some cards have a specific condition that needs to be met. If a card says to do something that can't be done, you cannot play that card. For example, if you want to play Ghostly Hot Dog, you need to have at least one other card in your inventory to discard. If Ghostly Hot Dog is the only card in your inventory, you cannot play it. Not all cards are played. Map pieces are collected, and code stones are attached. Since they aren't played, they don't create a queue and can't be responded to. The queue is a system for figuring out what happens when multiple effects are going on at the same time. It follows a first in, last out process. Whenever you play a card or activate an ability, that effect goes in the queue, and you have priority. If you want to play anything else to happen before that effect, you need to do so then. Otherwise, you pass priority to your opponent. When you pass priority to your opponent, they have the option to respond to your card or effect. If they do, that effect happens first, unless you respond to their response. For example, you play Dr. Death so that you can keep your code stones and equipment and have an advantage in the next round. Your opponent responds by playing Hot Dog of Justice. If you don't respond, Hot Dog of Justice resolves first, and Dr. Death's effect is negated. In the same scenario, you can respond to your opponent's Hot Dog of Justice with your own Hubert Special Hot Dog. Since Hubert Special Hot Dog was the last card played in the queue, it resolves first, negating Hot Dog of Justice, so Dr. Death resolves. The first player to win 2 rounds wins the game. Unlike most other trading card games, you don't lose when you run out of cards in your deck. Instead, if you need to draw a card but there are none left in the main deck, your Neopet takes 1 damage. And that's the basics for how to play the Neopets Battledome trading card game. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like and subscribe so I know somebody's watching. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments and I'll see if I can help. Upper Deck sent me a Staria Kara starter deck, so I'll be doing a giveaway on Blue Sky. Check out the link in the description for your chance to win, and follow me on Instagram where I open Neopets, Pokemon, and Magic packs every day. Finally, keep an eye out for the next set, Champions of Meridell, coming out this spring. Big thanks to Upper Deck Entertainment for providing me with cards, and to Startboy for providing me with the art for the background and for my playmat. You can find links to both in the description.